This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming on Ann's behalf. And I've only known her, well, for a number of years, I think several years. We met at a reading, and she honored Artful Dodger's poetry by joining us on more than several occasions. And she will be dearly missed. I'm going to read now just to indicate the reading list that I have and the poems that are scheduled to be read by the individual readers. If any of you don't find your names on this and do want to read, just pick a poem that hasn't been indicated as having been taken. We have Peter Daniels reading "Clearing the Decks," 2 sections. Penelope. Oh yeah, we'll get that. Penelope Shuttle, Bugger This for a Game of Soldiers and The Last Lamp. Peter Richards, An Alternative Proposal, The Pissing Cow. Leslie Ingram, Ben Gunn Weeps, In Search of Lost Proust. Chris O'Carroll, The Case for Light Verse, Between Dryden and Duffy, When I Have Fears. Julie Steiner, How Beautiful Are the Feet, A Little Bell and Doggone. Mark McConnell, Mary Louis Dances, Solstice, Word Made Flesh. Robert Schechter, 19th July 1944, and The Red Mud of Lit.
I am in here.
Nemo Hill, Do I Feel Lucky and Way to Go. John Marcus, Spam, Bed. Charlotte Innes, A Cat in the Garden, Election Fever, The Shadow of the Moon. Robert Gilbert, Gathering Frogs, New Fruit. Mallard, Chenet, Pew, A Sea View. Angela France, Turn, Today I Am Walking Like Baryshnikov, Going Light. Me, Meeting Apollo, Nominal Aphasia, If I Should Die. Roger, I know, had a couple of poems that he wanted to read. Is there anybody else that wants to read?
You got a couple in the chat. Wendy said yes, and somebody else said, oh, Jane.
All right, let's look in the chat. You got it, whatever.
I was actually asking to be added to the list that Harvey was talking about.
Okay. All right. So
is it too loud for you?
Well, all right. Who is speaking?
Well, for me, because I can't make out.
Okay.
But I don't know.
What I'm going to ask you to do now is
I can't.
All of you mute yourselves so that individually people who would like to read but haven't been named yet can unmute themselves and let me know. So, is there anybody out there who's not on the list who would like to read? Raise your hand, or the reaction hand, whatever.
Do you want to read?
Well, potentially. But...
Put your hand up then.
All right, I'll ask down the road. Is there anybody else?
I hope give me your cue.
Okay, Basil, if you could mute yourself, please, for a moment.
Mute that for a minute. Just click on that for a minute. Come
on. Never mind, I'll do it. Anybody else who hasn't been named who would like to read? Okay, then it looks like we go through the list. I guess this would be an appropriate time to again have a moment of silence for Ann, where we can reflect upon our relationships with her and anything else we choose to think of at that time. Thank you. I think what I'm going to do to start with is play a recording of of a poem that's prototypical and called Slutfest. I just have to go into Safari to do it. Actually, Angela, did you indicate to me that you were going to screen share that?
I can do.
You can do. Why don't you do that?
I
This
can
way we
screen.
can, this way we can see it and hear it at the same time.
I'm not allowed to yet. You haven't.
Oh,
haven't
yes.
permitted.
All right. Let me get to screen share here. Oh, it does. It's not. 1 second. Oh, that's great. I seem to have lost everybody.
You're sharing your screen,
No,
Harvey.
yeah, I understand that, and I have no idea what it is that is, why that's doing what that's doing. Let me get back to Zoom and down here somewhere. Come on. It's not doing it either. Stop share. Okay. Yeah, a little scary there. All right, screen share. Okay, everybody can share now. And
Right. Yes, I can do it now.
okay, fine.
Somebody wave when you can see it.
Can see it now.
Right. I'll play it then.
Slutfest. Today is the day we rejoice, we sluts and hussies. Out in broad daylight in public. Come, see us dance. It is the day of Mary, who said sucks to her sister, and sat on her ass while the beardy man told stories. It is the day of Lilith, who has no home to go to. When evicted, she hollered, yay, in unholy triumph. She never liked gardening anyway. She gets along. Goddamn how she rates snakes. It is the day of Shamat of the April Gate, who teaches boys to eat and drink and fuck. Nobody looks in her refrigerator for mould, or turns their nose up at the whiff of the fuzzy armpits that put her magnificent tits in bold parenthesis. It is the day of me and all my unsavoury sisters. We have flung open the curtains on our accumulations, left open the doors to our decomposition, and we are out, all out in the street and dancing, scaring the shit out of the hard-faced men and their horses, wising up their wives to the truth of our situation. We don't keep house. We have lives, and we live them in studios. We fill them with what delights us, peer in and marvel. We do not give house room to cleanliness or regret. Today we will dance. Look, world, our legs are unshaven and our shoes are mismatched. Hurrah!
A voice that will be much missed. If you could, okay, that's fine. For those of you who are, not intimately familiar with Zoom, you can, in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you should have something that says View, and you can either view the gallery, which is to say all of us, as I think we're presently being presented, or the reader, the speaker, I think it is, if you want to enhance the view of whoever is reading. So I guess, is there anybody who has any opening remarks that they would like to share with us? Okay, then I guess we'll start with the reading and start with Peter Daniels. So if you'd unmute, if you'd unmute.
Harvey, that's not the latest list.
That's the list that I have here.
I sent you one this morning, the order.
Okay, well, let me go in there and see if I can.
I've got you reading first.
Oh, okay, I can do that. Well, I guess I can do that in this way. And then I will look for the list. First things first, and that is that Janet Kenny sent me an email, and she just wanted me to read this. Dearest Annie, you saw me through my husband's illness and through my difficulties after his death. Your kindness was limitless. Thank you, Janet. And as for myself, no, that's the wrong page. This one is called If I Should Die. I shall try not to die. This is a given. Part of the basic program of instruction built into me with the accreting cells at the beginning. But I will have to in the end, things do. Meanwhile, I try from time to time to guess how it will come and what will happen after the lights go out. I don't do souls. I work in certainties, although I wouldn't rule out altogether the interesting possibility one never knows. I live alone, along with a small dog. If I am taken unexpectedly, he won't know how to jury-rig a flag or use the phone. I don't believe he'll grieve. He'll whine a bit when he wants out. He'll feel the need for food. My immobility will represent a broken promise. Flesh will cool, stiffen, soften, become meat, and delicacy into the irresistible. Dog will decide, I have at last provided, and will partake. When famine follows feast, he will succumb. Probably at my side, nature, who wastes nothing, will send in other smaller needy things to tidy up. However the end ends, bailiffs, police, we will be waiting in the dusty dark, a rough pile of assorted spillikins and a hairy biscuit. And then, what's the next one here? This one is called, and I can certainly identify with this, nominal aphasia. My words are not my servants anymore. They did not answer me when called upon. I wanted dynamo, they gave me thermidor. At first I found it funny. Merde alors, where did that naughty little thought come from? My words are not my servants anymore. I smiled and went on trying. I was sure the simple hitch could quickly be undone. I fished for dynamo and landed thermidor. I called the thralls who always helped before, but all their old obedience was gone. My words were not my servants anymore. I felt the terror then, the groping for the thing that used to make the light come on. If I need dynamo, what use is thermidor? It's like the quiet closing of a door, the crossing of a private Rubicon. My words are not my servants anymore. I wanted dynamo. They gave me thermidor. And then meeting Apollo. Snide giggle of soft rain on foliage as I recognized him in the garden. 10th figure among the damp shrubs. Apollo. I shed tears in exchange for his wet blessing. Apotheosis of a naughty whim. There was a tangle of steel reinforcement beckoning from a lump of broken concrete that somebody had chucked into a skip. A lucky find, a nice bit of rough trade calling out, asking to be taken home. Compassion for the beauty and found things gave me the right to take it. Now it lives lovely in long grass in my own garden, moss on its plinth, rust on the twisted rods that mimic the perfection of Apollo. That's how I live, occasionally blessed by random glimpses of the sad old god who wanders through the wreckage of the world, twanging the slack strings of a busted lyre, seeking an echo in a mortal heart. Okay. Now,
It's Roger next, and then Robin.
just let me know because my list is completely different. So Roger.
Roger, and then Robin.
Okay. And meanwhile, I'll try and look for the list.
I emailed this morning.
Okay, I just got to get into my email.
Okay, well, again, I'd like to echo Kate and say thanks, Harvey, immensely for recognizing the importance of Anne's work and also putting this thing together. And I'd like to do, there's three things I'd like to do. One is something that cheekily I've written. I wrote this after I had the news of Anne's death. And I think it's appropriate to what we're doing tonight, in memoriam Ann Drysdale. So what of their texts, our dearly departed poets? As the sun burns brighter and ever nearer, the ice caps will melt and the sea waters will rise and carry off their manuscripts. Words will float away from their pages. Letters will detach themselves from words like carving glaciers. Then what of their published volumes, our dearly departed poets? As one by one governments topple before the jackboots and juggernauts of intolerance and incomprehension, their books will be judged heretical and will be cast into the flames of bonfires in public squares, and the libraries that house them will be razed to the ground. But what of their digital imprint, our dearly departed poets? They will be submerged in the continual traffic of capped-locked conspiracies, of memes and emojis, of dancing dogs and backyard bears, of the algorithmic bile and unfettered outpourings of the riff-raff and all the chiff-chaff chitter-chatter of the unfiltered world. So how then will we remember them, our dearly departed poets? By gathering together and reading their verses aloud, because the sound waves of every human utterance are carried out into the blue, into the ether, out into deep space, out into far galaxies, and on into infinity. Lines of poetry like pulsing supernovas, snaking their way across multiverses, seeking new worlds to inhabit. Yes, we will say their names, we will take up their poems, and yes, we will read them aloud. So that's for Anne, and I think one thing I thought of is that it's very important to look at Anne's work in the whole canon of poetry. And one of the things that she did to enable this was that she, as well as as well as being a poet in her own right, she was also a translator. And the two things I'd like to read were two translations that she made. The first was a poem called During the Storm, which was a translation of Pendant la Tempête by Théophile Gautier. And the important thing about this is that Anne recognized that this was part of the whole 19th century romanticism of the metaphor of a shipwreck and an abandoned boat, a bit like Rimbaud's Drunken Boat and Géricault's painting of the Raft of the Medusa. So she had all that knowledge and understanding of where that poem was actually located. And what's more important, what's more impressive, is that the original poem's 4 stanzas in rhyming A, B, A, B. And she got the stanzas, she got the rhythm, she got the stanzas, and she got the rhyming scheme as well. And that's and to be able to do that, but still regain the sense and the understanding of the poem, I think was very, very
Take
impressive.
that off, it doesn't make.
So during the storm, the boat is a speck in a thundering ocean. The waves toss us up to a mutinous sky, which drops us back down to the water's commotion, and here, where the mast was, we kneel and we pray. There's only a plank between us and forever, and maybe tonight we shall all lie asleep in a bitter black bed with a white frothy cover, lamplit by lightning and lost in the deep. Saviour of sailors in danger of dying, our own blessed Lady, the flower of heaven, calm the waves' clamour and hush the wind's crying, and push with your finger our boat into haven. And if you will save us, we promise we'll give you a really big candle with fancy bits on. We'll get you a gown made of glittery tissue and carve for your Jesus a little Saint John. And the other translation I'd like to do was a poem by Catullus, who just numbered his poems. He didn't actually have titles. And I've got no, unlike the Gautier poem, I've got access to the original, but I've got no access to the ancient Greek, even though I'm ancient, but I'm not Greek. And so this is more of a kind of reimagining of this Catullus poem. And I know when she published it, she put a little note to say that she actually wrote this for a competition, a translated poem.
Everybody else can hear it, Bart.
But sorry, hello. But the translation, she said, didn't find favour with a classical scholar because it was too irreverent, and he called her a naughty boy. And I think that's very interesting because what she did in the translation was to inhabit the voice of Catullus, even though she transposed the setting to a modern setting. The poem by Catullus was about the death of a sparrow, which was kept by a pet, as a pet from his dear Lesbia, and was cursing the gods for doing away with this sparrow. But as Anne pointed out, perhaps Catullus was a little bit jealous of this sparrow and was quite pleased that he died. And so she's called her poem, "Oh dear me, did the little birdie die then?" Cry your eyes out, love goddesses and godlings, and all men with anthropomorphic leanings. My bird's been and gone and turned its toes up. Bird, that is, that my own bird used to